Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most dramatic geopolitical stories of our time, how Ukraine outplayed Vladimir Putin and why it's costing Russia everything. When Russia first invaded Ukraine, many expected a rapid victory, believing that the sheer size and military might of the Russian forces would overwhelm Kiev within weeks. But what unfolded was a masterclass in resilience, strategy, and sheer determination that has changed the course of modern warfare and put Putin's ambitions into serious jeopardy. From the very first days of the conflict, Ukraine showed an unexpected ability to mobilize not only its military but its entire population, creating a united front that Russia could not anticipate. Civilians turned into volunteers, soldiers turned into heroes, and a nation's willpower became its deadliest weapon. While the Russian military launched attacks with heavy tanks, missiles, and air power, Ukraine leveraged agility, intelligence, and international support to turn the battlefield into a nightmare for its invaders. Putin's forces, often relying on outdated strategies and plagued by low morale, found themselves repeatedly outmaneuvered. Cities that Moscow assumed would fall quickly resisted fiercely, while counteroffensives reclaimed lost ground, stunning both analysts and the world. Each failed Russian assault was not just a military loss, but a blow to the image of invincibility that Putin had carefully cultivated over decades. Internationally, Ukraine's fight captured the attention and support of powerful nations. Military aid, intelligence sharing, and economic sanctions against Russia transformed the conflict into more than just a local struggle. It became a global standoff. Modern weaponry, such as precision, guided missiles and drone technology, allowed Ukrainian forces to strike deep into Russian positions, disrupting supply lines and crippling logistics. These tools, combined with clever tactics, made it increasingly clear that sheer numbers and firepower alone could not guarantee victory. Meanwhile, Russia's internal problems began to surface. The economy started to falter under the weight of sanctions, corruption, and mismanagement. Ordinary citizens faced rising inflation and shortages, while dissent quietly grew among both the populace and military ranks. Putin's image of strength and control, carefully crafted through propaganda, began to crack. Soldiers questioned orders, officers were replaced or punished, and whispers of discontent spread throughout the Kremlin. The cost of the war was no longer just strategic or territorial. It became political, social, and deeply personal for many Russians. On the other hand, Ukraine's leadership, particularly President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, turned adversity into strength. International diplomacy was paired seamlessly with domestic unity. Public addresses, appeals for aid, and symbolic acts of defiance showcased a nation determined not to surrender, sending a message to both citizens and the world that Ukraine was committed to its freedom. The psychological impact of this leadership on both sides cannot be overstated. Morale and perception play as critical a role in war as weaponry. As months passed, Russia's losses became more pronounced. Key offensives failed, strategic locations were retaken, and the myth of Russian superiority was shattered in the eyes of the international community. Each victory by Ukraine wasn't just about territory, it was a statement that Putin's narrative of unstoppable power was false. NATO nations, once hesitant, solidified their support for Kiev, sending advanced military systems, intelligence resources, and humanitarian aid, further tipping the scales. Finland and Sweden, historically neutral, were motivated to join NATO, directly reflecting the shifting geopolitical landscape and the unforeseen consequences of Russia's aggression. The war also exposed deep flaws within the Russian military hierarchy. Decisions made by commanders often lacked coordination, troops were sent ill-prepared, and internal politics interfered with operational effectiveness. Units were frequently isolated, supply chains were disrupted, and morale reached historic lows. In contrast, Ukraine adapted quickly, learning from early setbacks and improving both tactics and technology. Small, agile units proved capable of inflicting disproportionate damage, using terrain, speed, and local knowledge to outmaneuver a much larger opponent. Civilians became a crucial part of the resistance. Communities organized logistics, rebuilt infrastructure, and supported soldiers on the front lines. Ordinary citizens became symbols of resilience, demonstrating that the fight was not just for territory, but for survival, culture, and identity. Social media amplified these efforts, broadcasting the reality of Russian failures and Ukrainian bravery to the world, countering Moscow's narrative and galvanizing international public opinion. The economic consequences for Russia were severe and multifaceted. Sanctions targeted key industries, restricted financial systems, and isolated the country from global markets. Energy exports, once a major source of leverage, were increasingly limited as Europe diversified its suppliers. Inflation soared, and domestic shortages created dissatisfaction and unrest. The war, meant to demonstrate strength, instead highlighted systemic weaknesses and made long-term recovery increasingly uncertain. Military hardware that Russia relied upon was increasingly neutralized by technology and innovation. Drones, anti-tank systems, precision artillery, and cyber operations became force multipliers for Ukraine, allowing them to punch above their weight. Each destroyed convoy, each disabled tank, and each disrupted supply route became a symbol of both tactical skill and strategic foresight, reinforcing the message that sheer size alone does not win modern conflicts. Putin's leadership, once marked by an aura of invulnerability, faced unprecedented scrutiny. Propaganda failed to conceal repeated setbacks, losses, and the human cost of war. Citizens began questioning not only the rationale behind the conflict, but also the competence of those in power. Loyalty, once taken for granted, became fragile. Meanwhile, Ukraine's resolve remained unshaken, strengthened by a collective sense of purpose and a growing recognition that their fight was about far more than borders. It was about the principles of freedom and sovereignty.